Hello YouTube, this is Swamp Yankee here. Today's video is entitled, So You Want to Be a Prepper. It's a funny title there, but just to talk about that, with some people that may think they want to prep, here's some things to maybe consider on your journey of prepperness and prepping. My biggest thing, I'm not a professional prepper. I don't know if there really is a professional prepper. Things that work for me may not work for you. Situations that I prep for may not be the same situations you prep for. So keep that in mind and take what I have to say with a grain of salt, because I'm going to let you know I'm not always right. I'm not always, when it comes to something like this. I just want to give you my opinion on the whole prepping and why we want to prep. And some of the things to look for during your prepping journey, I guess you would call it. Some of the first things you need to think about is why would you want to prep? There are a lot of different reasons, from the very minor to the extreme. There's different levels of preppers, or different types of preppers, I should say. There's the extreme doomsday preppers, which you probably see a lot of them on TV right about now, or sometimes even on YouTube. They have some very extreme people prepping for some very extreme situations. A lot of those people, I think they call them nuts. In my opinion, a lot of those people are a little off. But hey, if it works for them, good. If that's the type of prepping you're looking for, hey, go for it. And then there's people like I think I fall into that category of just a normal everyday prepper, just trying to prep a little bit and prep enough to safely and live comfortably in a situation that may occur, such as maybe a natural disaster, something like that. But there are different reasons to prep, from like I said, the extreme nuclear war, major invasion by a different country, economic and political upheaval and collapse, and then there's other prepping situations. Something I fall onto is more natural disasters, wildfires, tornadoes, hurricanes. In my mind, stuff like that is more probable than aliens landing on the White House lawn and taking over the world. But like I said, each their own. There's different reasons you would prep. But just to talk about that, you probably should kind of know why you want to prep in the first place. Have an idea of what you're prepping for. With that being said, also, there are different levels. If you're just prepping for one thing, that's fine, but just realize that could lead into other situations. A good example, economic collapse. The probability of that kind of stuff happening, I mean, it's your own judgment. Use your own judgment on that. But in my mind, it's not very probable at all. But full economic collapse, the country goes bankrupt, law and order disintegrate, the country, the United States as we know it, disappears. That's going to lead into other things. Economic collapse can lead into massive power failure, utility failures, infrastructure failures. There's no police, no cop, no fire department anymore, stuff like that, which could lead to civil unrest. And there's just different levels. Each situation you're preparing yourself for could lead into other things. So just keep that in mind also. If you're preparing for, in my case, natural disaster, that could actually lead into civil unrest in a small area, kind of thing like that. So you prepare for multiple situations if you can. So, like I said, I am not a doomsday prepper. I'm not a fanatic extremist in the sense. Some of the people, like you said, you see on TV. I do believe that you should prep for a lot of different things. The reason I prep personally is more of a natural disaster situation, be it just natural disaster, fire, tornado, hurricane, stuff like that, which, like, in my mind, it could lead to civil unrest and stuff like that. So I prep along those lines. So know what you are prepping for, because depending on what you're prepping for is going to gear you to more towards what you're going to need to survive and live comfortably. So using the situation I prep for, natural disasters, the things I prep for that would not be the same things I would prep for the doomsday scenario. I mean, I don't have a bunker in my backyard. I don't have a stockpile of food to last 25 years next to my armory full of automatic weapons and boxes and palm boxes of ammunition. I don't do that. It's not saying it's wrong. I mean, you need to do what you feel comfortable with. In my personal opinion, like I said, it's my personal opinion. People that do that kind of stuff are pretty extreme and may need to rethink some things, but each their own. Each their own. I could be wrong. With that also being said, gun control, stuff like that, hey, the Constitution of the United States, I'm totally, hey, red, white, and blue, baby. Yeah, I do have a British flag behind me, if you guys have not noticed. I've had that for years. It's in my garage. Hey, okay, I'm still an American here. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in what the government stands for. The people that run the government at the moment, I'm kind of have my own personal opinions on that and how the country is being run at the moment. But you know what? When it's all said and done, the ideological aspect of the United States, I totally firmly believe in. So I do not feel that the government should infringe on some of those rights. With that also being said, do I believe you need a stockpile armory full of automatic weapons with armor-piercing bullets and stuff like that? No, but I am not going to stop you. But I do believe I don't need that personally. People that do, for whatever reason, go for it. When it comes to weaponry, that's a personal decision you have to make with yourself and with your family. I do have firearms. I don't have stockpiles of ammunition or an armory full of firearms, but the firearms I do have, I am proficient in, and I know how to use them safely, and they work for me. I do not have automatic weapons or anything, semi-automatic rifles and stuff like that, but what I do have works for me. I know how to use it the right way, safely. So that is a personal choice on your end. You need to think about weapons. Even a knife. I mean, honestly, you don't need a gun. You can use blades, stuff like that. Whatever you feel comfortable with, or your own personal decision, but I would really suggest that you learn how to use whatever equipment you're using like that in a safe manner, because you don't want to hurt yourself or someone else for no reason. I mean, just keep that in mind. You don't need guns, but if you do, be safe with it and know how to use it the right way. Alright, so that's that part. So let me stop rambling. But so you want to be a prepper. Alright, what are you going to prep for? Know what you're prepping for, like I said, and then know that there are different levels of preppers and preparedness. You're not always going to just prep for one thing. Just try to remember there's multiple layers, multiple levels, because one thing could lead into another. Some of the things you're really going to have to think about as a prepper, or getting into the prepper mindset, how deeply do you want to go? I mean, you can spend a lot of time, a lot of money on prepping, but you don't have to. It depends on what you're prepping for and how strongly you feel about it. So keep that in mind. I mean, you can spend thousands and thousands of dollars on gear. I mean, if you want it, you can find it, just you want to pay the price for it. In my mind, I don't need tons of stuff like that, because a lot of the stuff I need for my preps, I can either make myself, reuse everyday items, stuff like that. I don't need to go out and buy thousands upon thousands of dollars of gear that I may never use, or if I will use, I don't know how to use properly. So that's another thing you need to really think about. How much do you want to spend into it? I mean, it could be very time consuming. It could be very expensive. Just keep that in mind. It doesn't always have to be. So don't think you have to go out and buy the newest gadgets and newest gear to become a prepper. Because you don't. I mean, as long as what you have, if you can use it and utilize it the best you can, then you'll be okay. But it's personal opinion, personal choice. So keep that in mind. You don't need thousands and thousands of dollars worth of preps. You don't need to spend 15 hours a day prepping. You can if you want, but you don't have to. There's no set rule that says you have to do anything such as that. But just know what works for you, and whatever you are aiming for and prepping for, just know how to use it the right way. Because you can have the most expensive stuff out there. If you don't know how to use it, it's very nice looking, but it's junk. So whatever you do have or prep, gear-wise, just know how to use it the right way, and it'll save you a lot of time and energy in the long run. Now, with that kind of stuff being said, you're going to have to look at a lot of different aspects of prepping and why you are prepping. Think of why you're prepping, but also you're going to know where you live and what different circumstances that entails. Are you live in a rural setting in the middle of the country? Do you live in a suburban center outside of a major metropolitan city? Do you live in a city? Do you live in an urban environment? You got to keep that kind of stuff in consideration, because the preps that you would do in one may not be the same kind of preps you would do in a different area of the country, different environment. Me personally, I live in a suburban area at the moment, right outside of a metropolitan city, a smaller city, but a metropolitan city. Very close to a lot of rural areas, so I'm kind of like a mix of almost all three. Some people not so much. You either live really, really extreme in the city or outside the city or dead center in suburbia. But there's different challenges and different things you need to think about when and where you live. If you live in a city environment, are you going to stay? If there's your situation occurs, are you going to evacuate the area? Where are you going to evacuate to? Point A, from point A to point B. Do you have a point C, D, E, F, G there somewhere? I mean, do you have multiple locations where you can bug out to? Are you going to stay at home? Are you going to stay bug in? There's some of the things you're going to really think about, because they do come up with their own situations and own problems, and I don't know. Me personally, where I live in a suburban area, and like I said, I'm more geared towards a natural disaster, possibly terrorist situation. That's a little bit far-fetched where I live, but more natural disaster than anything. If that was the case, I probably would not be bugging in my home. I would be relocating to a safer area of the state or country even. And I've made plans for that kind of stuff. I have friends and relatives that know that if something happens here, I will be going there. So that comes up with this whole different situation and whole different logistics problems and everything. If you are going to bug out, whatever. If you are going to relocate to a different area from the area you're in now, how are you going to do it? Are you going to drive there? Are you going to walk there? Are you going to take public transportation there? Are you going to bike there? You got to keep contingency plans in your head. In my mind, something happened here. My first destination would be about 4 hours away. To get there, I plan on using a vehicle, one of my vehicles, with stuff I have, easy access stockpile of stuff I have. I'm taking it with me. But now, what happens if the infrastructure is compromised? Roadblocks, just stalled vehicles on the side of the road, safety issues. I have a contingency plan for that. So I have backup upon backup upon backup. Same area, but what happens if the area I want to go to is compromised for some reason? It hit natural disasters worse than where I live now. You got to keep that kind of stuff in mind. So have a backup plan. What you're going to do if you're leaving your location. If you're staying in your location, there's a lot more issues you're gonna have to deal with too. How are you gonna secure your environment? Are you gonna have enough resources to last prolonged bug in? And if not, how are you gonna replenish your supplies? There's a lot of different things you're gonna have to think of and prepare for. I mean, it's very time consuming sometimes, but you have to really think about that kind of stuff. What do you want to do? And like I said, it's going to be different if you live in an urban environment compared to a rural environment, because it brings a whole different creature to the mix, I guess. So that's some of the things you're going to think of. You need to think of also. And then food and water, each their own on this one. I mean, are you going to stockpile food? This kind of coincides with the whole are you going to stay or go kind of thing. But if you're going to stay, are you going to stockpile 25 years worth of food? And if you do, that's great, but how are you going to secure that food stuff? Are you going to have to worry about your neighbors? Because when people get restless, stuff happens. I mean, personal example, my own situation, about almost a year and a half, 2 years ago, we had a major windstorm, microburst that hit our state. In the area I lived in, we were out of power for 4 days. There are some people in the state that are out of power for over a week. Sometimes, I think part of the state there was some people out for almost a month. And I'm going to let you know that a lot of Americans especially, we rely on a lot of things that we take for granted. Electricity, water, easy access to food and medical issues, medical help. I mean, we take a lot of stuff for granted, and when it's not there, you really see the change in people. A good example of my own situation, like I said, a few years ago, we had a microburst in the state. We were out of power for 4 days. The first day, nothing too bad. I mean, we literally just got back from vacation anyway, so we didn't have tons of food in the refrigerator, nothing perishable, stuff like that. We had some canned goods and stuff, just the basic stuff every household has. We were supposed to go shopping that night, but before we did, all the electricity went out. Almost the whole state was black. I mean, it was a bad storm. First day wasn't too bad. I mean, we had enough stuff to get by. Neighbors were very nice people. Everybody, community-wise, a lot of people came together. Second day wasn't too bad either, but you're in the middle of summer. It was getting hot. I mean, it was bad. The third day, actually, my wife and my family, they went to a different relative's house a couple hours away because they had electricity and they stayed there. I had to stay home because I had to work actually the next day, and just seeing the change in people, because by that time the gas stations, many of them were shut. I mean, there was no gas. People were running out of gas for their generators. People were running out of gas in their cars. I remember seeing a line that was at least a mile long just for people to get gas, and they were rationing it. It was that bad. We were pretty unprepared myself. Like, this is when I started really getting into the whole prepping idea. Even after all the stuff I've seen in life, this is what really kind of hit the nail on the head for me. We didn't have a generator. I didn't have stockpiles of food or extra water, anything like that. And it was rough. It was pretty rough. But I did see a visible change in my neighbors, people around, people at work even. By the fourth day, it was pretty, tensions were high. So I can just imagine a prolonged situation, especially in a suburban area where I live now. So that's why, in my mind, I'm not staying. The next time something like that happens, we are going to stay for a little bit, but then we are going to relocate. So you got to keep stuff like that in mind. Because when the power goes out, it's only a matter of time before the tensions flare. I live in a pretty lenient gun state, which I was surprised there wasn't as many gun-related incidents as there were normally. But during that time, tempers flare, people get stupid. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of things to consider when you're prepping. if you have children, I mean, if you have animals, either domestic, your dog or cats, or you have livestock. I mean, if you live in a rural environment, I guess. I mean, there's a lot of different things you need to take into consideration for prepping and being a prepper. You put as much in as you want. I mean, there's no set rule that says you have to do X, Y, Z. You do whatever works for you, but with the understanding, when you do that, you need to know how to do it the right way. There's nothing worse than prepping all this equipment and da-da-da, and then when the time comes, you can't find it, or when you do find it, you don't know how to use it the right way. So it is really, really important that you know how to use what you got and how to use it properly. A good idea. Also, I see a lot of people with the whole, I'm bugging out into the woods, I'm going to live off the land, mountain man style. Hey, go for it. I mean, where I grew up, it was more of a rural environment, where I grew up, and, we had a lot of woods and forests, and did a lot of, stuff like that, and camping and everything when I was a child. I am by far not even close to be a woodsman. But I know the basics. If you really think that's what you're gonna do, then why don't you try it? I mean, you do it safely. You know what? Go camping in your backyard for 3 days with just what you have with you. I'm gonna tell you, by the third day, you just want to go home. I mean, it's that bad sometimes. It's what you get. Mindset. It's all about mindset. But a lot of people have this idea that when the world ends, I'm going up to the mountains and live off the land, like my ancestors. Yeah, let me see how that works out for you. I mean, some people can do that, I guess, but I know personally that is not in the cards for me. But really kind of have realistic expectations of what you can and can't do. In my mind, the biggest thing as a prepper or prepping would be skill sets. I can't stress that enough. The more you know and know how to do right, the better off you will be in the long run. I mean, just the more valuable you'll be as a person to help others and to help yourself. If you know how to do medical stuff, I mean, you have a good understanding of medical things, if you have a good understanding of electronics or mechanics, or, I mean, just gardening or anything like that, work on your skill sets. If you don't know how to do it, try to learn it. You don't have to do it greatly, but the better you are, the better you will be in the long run. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff I don't know that I want to learn. Just even the basic stuff, how to use a compass the right way, how to use a map the right way. Things like that can really get you farther than what you would have been if you didn't know how to do that kind of stuff. People take a lot of stuff for granted. How do you make a snare trap for catching small game? When you do catch that small game, how do you field dress it the right way? How do you cook it the right way without getting sick? I mean, stuff like that. I mean, are you going to be hunting? Or are you going to be fishing? Do you know how to hunt? Do you know how to fish? Keep that kind of stuff in mind. Because your skills are your best asset. The more you know, the better off you're going to be. And if you don't know it, learn it. I mean, there's internet stuff all over the place that you can find information on how to do A, B, C, D. Some of it's maybe not accurate, but you know what? You learn as you do it, and you do it properly. And I think you'll be okay. In the long run, there is no right way, there's no wrong way to prep. It's just depending on your own personal feelings on it. How much do you want to put into it? How much time, energy, money do you want to drop into something like this? Why are you prepping? Where do you live? What are the challenges you're going to have, depending on that situation? So that's the kind of stuff you need to keep in mind. Don't worry about the equipment. I can't stress that enough either. Don't worry about what you have or what you need. Just worry more about your skills and how to procure that kind of stuff. I mean, you can find water places. You can the right way. If you know how to do it the right way, you can find safe water. Food. You can find food almost anywhere in the world to sustain you. It may not be the best stuff. I mean, but you know how to look for that kind of stuff. You know how to look for edible food. Do you know how to catch food? Do you know how to clean food? Because hamburger comes from somewhere, you know. Do you know how to slaughter an animal? I mean, there's a lot of different levels of things that, as in society, we kind of forgot or got away from. Not saying that you have to live off the land like a mountain man, but you should probably have some kind of understanding of what you were looking for. So just keep that in mind. I kind of hope this helps you with your journey, like I said, of being a prepper and just doing stuff the proper way. But like in the long run, just remember there's no right way, there's no wrong way. Do what works for you. Just be safe about it and be smart about it, because you can get a lot more done with a lot less energy and time and money if you know how to do it the right way. So please leave your comments. Positive is always better than negative. But I mean, like I said, I'm not a professional by any means necessary, so take what I have to say with a grain of salt. Just hopefully that gets you thinking more about prepping and what you're prepping for. So I hope to hear from you soon, and see you later.